What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of the Fight Maniac podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. I really appreciate all of you that are out there. As always, if you want to support your boy, don't forget, go ahead and hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave me a comment. Let me know how you guys are feeling after UFC Noche or Noche UFC. 306, obviously at the Sphere. Very highly anticipated card. And I'll talk about the fights here in a minute, right? I want to separate the skill set of the card and the results. I want to separate them from the event itself because I do have to say, Noche UFC, right, at the Sphere was production wise probably the best fighting event ever. Period. Done. I mean, the production was out of this fucking world, bro. And we had seen kind of what this sphere was capable of, right? Which, I mean, the possibilities are endless. They could have done anything they wanted, and obviously they chose the theme of Mexican Independence Day, which was dope. So yeah, just those little visuals that they had in between the fights were amazing. The audio, obviously at home it doesn't translate, but the audios probably seemed to be amazing. I was kind of making fun with my buddy that we were watching the fight, and we were like, "Holy shit! It looks like it's about to be like a DJ set, like a Lollapalooza fucking concert." So the production was out of this world. It was insane. I'm sure live it was even more unreal. So fuck. I mean, they pulled it off, bro. I do have to say that. I'll talk about the fights here in a second, but I just gotta show respect. I'm not glazing Dana White. I'm not doing any of that. Okay, but you gotta give credit where credit is due. That production was nothing that we've ever seen before. No, nothing. No boxing, no MMA, nothing. Okay, not even Olympic, like any sport you can imagine, any sport in the world. The UFC just set a new milestone and just raised the bar to what is possible production wise, right? So yeah, Dana White kept saying that it was one and done, even though the show seemed to go very well. So people would expect to say, well, it went well. So what's up, bro? Give us another one. But he did say that is not the case. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe they will come back later on. He talked something about a contract with the MGM. I don't know, but who knows how long that contract is for. So I guess depending on that. Um, and another thing I want to mention is I started off watching the prelims and I thought it was going to be a nightmare because during the prelims they were not using the full visual capability that like they did in the main card. And I was confused at first because Dana White said it. He said, make sure you guys are tuning in for the prelims as well. So I was thinking that they were also going to do some crazy shit for the prelims, but it ended up not happening. Nothing else really can say about that. Shout out. It was amazing. I hope other sports or other fight promotions go back to this sphere and just, it seems something that other people could do, especially, with the backing of, the Saudi money and all of that. They are not only partners specifically with the UFC, but they partner with boxing and they do other type of events. So it's possible that they might say, okay, this went really well. Let's try to do this, but again, now with fucking boxing, right? With Canelo or something like that. I don't know. Or a one championship or a PFL. You never know. You never know. Anything is possible. So don't be surprised if after seeing the success that UFC had at the Sphere, we see other promotions going to it. But now we can move on to the fights, the actual skill set, yeah, what's important of the night. Okay, production is dope, but the fights are everything. So I do have to say, the card itself, skill wise, the all the results definitely did not. How can I put this lightly? They did not live up to the expectation as far as the card, right? The big hype that the card had. And yeah, I mean, when you looked at the prelims before, it wasn't really nothing to blow your socks off. You had Raul Rosas open up the night with a decision win, unanimous decision. So shout out for him. And then it was alright. Probably the best one was in the prelims was Irene Aldana versus Norma Dumont. That was a good fight, and I think it was Irene had that nasty cut on her head. It was nasty, but Norma ended up getting the unanimous decision dub again. So a lot of decisions. The main event, the main card, okay, was all decisions. Every single card, every single fight on the main card was decisions. So yeah, that it's not good. That's not good. But we'll talk about him. We'll talk about him. Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Odie Osborne. I thought was a good fight. Pretty uneventful. Both guys just having a little back and forth. Ronaldo showing the better skill overall. I think he did a great job at mixing the wrestling as well as the striking. So yeah, shout out to him. He ended up getting the dub against Odie Osborne. Daniel Selhuber versus Esteban. Sorry, I messed up his name. Ribovic. That was a fantastic fight. It was a fantastic third round. The first round and the second round were okay, pretty uneventful, just a little back and forth. But then the third round, they fucking went at it. They're fucking, they show their true spirit, warrior spirit. I mean, both guys going back and forth and hurting each other. Um, Looking at the stats here, I will say it was primarily just a full striking fight, just a boxing fight, really. We saw some kicks from Esteban that was he was putting in work with the kicks, and then he landed 21 kicks versus Daniel landed 5 kicks. Then really no takedowns at all. So it was primarily a striking match, and Esteban Ribovic ended up getting the dub, also by decision. It was a split, so a little closer, a little tighter. But then we move on to the main 3 fights, right? So we have Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. Yes, I predicted a Brian Ortega win. So yes, I was wrong on this one. On total for the fight, I only made 3 predictions on the 3 main fights, right? I predicted Brian, Valentina, and Sean O'Malley. So I only got Valentina right. So I went 1 and 2. So not terrible. But yeah, I mean, Diego Lopez came out, first of all, round 1, came out like a fucking banshee, almost putting Brian away in the very first round. That was very impressive. When Brian weathered that storm, I was like, okay, here we go now, because Brian has, we've seen that from him in the past, where he gets injured and he takes some damage, but he's able to come back, or at least he's able to continue, the whole fight, and which is what he did. He weathered the storm. Primarily, though, he weathered the storm because I would say Diego Lopez, he was having success on the feet, but then he switched to grappling a lot, which kind of slowed down and kind of gave Brian some room to breathe. And even Brian threw a few submissions, out there. He threw a couple triangles, but Diego was able to slip out of those fairly easily. So yeah, the first round was obviously all Diego, and then from there I was very excited. I was like, all right, let me see what Brian can do next. And yeah, I mean, he just didn't do it. I don't want to take anything away from Diego. Diego got the win fair and square. He had an amazing performance. He was obviously the faster guy, the more explosive guy, and Brian was just eating too many shots. Even though Brian, he did have some success on the feet, he landed a few here and there, just not enough to get going and not enough to really cause any real damage for Diego. So yeah, also a unanimous decision as well for Diego Lopez. But hey, man, Brian Ortega is a huge name. He's been at the top of the division for such a long time now. He was currently ranked number 3, and Diego Lopez was ranked 13. So that's a big jump. That's a big jump. So I'm imagining that Diego is gonna take that top 3 spot from Brian, and now it's off to the races. Now, you know, he's up there with the big boys, and we do have the belt fight coming up here pretty soon. We have Ilya Taporia versus Max Holloway. And Diego Lopez, very interestingly and very strategically also, which I thought was smart, he called to be the backup for that fight, which I love that call out. I think more fighters should put themselves out there to be backups because you never know, bro. You never know. People get injured. People pull out of fights all the time. People get sick. So it's it's good to throw your name out there. And I think they asked Dana, and I don't think he gave us specific answer, but while it will be a good opportunity for Diego, and even though I think Ilya and Max make it to the octagon, I don't think any of them would pull out for any reason. If they, if they have a mild slight injury, they might just say fuck it and fight with it. So I don't think there's a slim chance that Diego actually fights if he has a backup, but there's always a chance. There's always a chance. And while I think that will be a great opportunity, I don't know if he's quite ready just there yet. I think, in my opinion, I would like to see him fight one more fight in the top three, a real number one contender, title eliminator fight, so that we can now then, from there step into a potential belt situation, right? And looking at the division, I mean, you have a few people here and there. You have Volk, obviously, but I don't know if Volk will fight a number one contender fight. I think if he's gonna fight again here pretty soon, which we don't have any news yet on that, but if he will, I think it will be straight for the title. So I guess we'll have to see what happens after Ilya and Max fight. The winner of that might fight Alex, right, for the belt. Who knows? But while that happens, you can for sure, make a number one contender fight with Diego Lopez and Yair Rodriguez. I think that is a phenomenal fight. I think that's a good test. Yair Rodriguez is obviously someone that fought for the belt already. Obviously lost, came up short against Volkanovski, and then fought, at the time the number one contender, or actually maybe, well, it wasn't a number one contender fight, but it was a top three fight. It was versus Brian Ortega, and he lost that. So coming off those two losses, I think Yair and Diego Lopez make a lot of sense. So that's the next fight I want to see for that division. Um, but yeah, I mean, not much more to say about Diego, bro. I think he is up there now with the big boys. He's on a path. He just has to keep grinding, and then he will probably get there soon, sooner rather than later. I think within the next year, we're going to see Diego Lopez probably fighting for a championship. So I'm excited, man. Feel bad for Brian. I'm such a huge fan of Brian. But yeah, shout out, man. I hope he comes back strong. And, I don't know. I was seeing a weird thing where his picture, he looked super out of shape. I don't know if like it was Photoshop or something, but it just looked weird. It almost looked like well, the meme that I saw, it was like that Brian looked like Nick Diaz when he came back and just, completely out of shape. Not completely out of shape, but not in fighting shape, right? So, yeah, they just thought it was funny. But yeah, I mean, Brian also, just to wrap this up, Brian has also been there a lot longer. He's more weathered, obviously. He has a lot of more miles on him. He takes a lot of damage in all his fights. He's had some wars, so yeah, it'll make sense that only at some point, it's a decline, right, rather than an incline. So I think he's no longer in his prime, although I don't know how old is he. He's 33 years old, so yeah, he is kind of still in his prime, kind of, right? But I mean, yeah, he's been at the UFC for a long time, so definitely weathered and definitely battle tested at this point. So yeah, but shout out to him, and I hope he bounces back. Next, we have the co-main event of the evening. We had Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. Pretty uneventful fight, if you don't mind me saying. Very anticlimactic. Even Dana White himself said that it was just boring and it sucked the life out of the room. So yeah, another decision win by Valentina, but the whole fight, really, it was all Valentina just dominating, just taking Alexa Grasso down at will, really, just taking her down whenever she wanted. Um, the striking was okay. I mean, Alexa Grasso has phenomenal boxing, so she did what she could, but she wasn't really able to land much. And then whenever she did through, Valentina will just time the takedown perfectly and just take her down. And, once they were on the ground, it was a whole different story. Once they were on the ground, I really expected Valentina to do more. Um, More ground and pound would have been ideal. But then she really wasn't threatening any submissions at all. In fact, when she took Alexa Grasso down multiple times, Alexa Grasso kept immediately going for the body triangle to, put her in a defensive so that she couldn't, so that, preventing Valentina from changing position. But that put Valentina in a few times, put her in a difficult situation where she almost got caught with a triangle. She almost got caught with I think it was a Kimura. So, and then at one point she actually had, I think, a guillotine. And it was kind of tight, and it took her a little while, but she eventually got out of it. I don't think Alexa was in the right position to be able to have a tight grip on the choke. But, nevertheless, Alexa threw at least, at the minimum, three very serious submission attempts that Valentina was almost caught with, But at the end of the day, she got out of those every time and just continued to dominate on top. But again, not doing a whole lot on top, right? Not even threatening a submission, trying to do some ground and pound, but Alexa did a good job at keeping her close and keeping her tight. But the sheer fact that she was able to take her down at will, and when you look at the striking, she also had a lot more striking than Alexa. So yeah, that ultimately gave her the decision win, and now she gets to regain her flyweight title. So yeah, shout out to Valentina, shout out to Alexa. Their first two fights were definitely much better than this one. This one, like I said, was very anticlimactic, and you can pretty much guarantee that we will not see a fourth. Mainly because the thought was there before the fight, because if Valentina would have won, which she did, they're 1-1, right? Because technically they have a win for Alexa, a draw, and now a win for Valentina. So they are 1-1. So the question was always there of like, oh, what about the fourth fight? What about the fourth fight? Yeah, after this, hell no. Hell no. And I think even Valentina said it herself. She said that, hey, no, not really. Maybe we should fight other people, get some new names in here, and then if in the future they meet again, because it's inevitable. That's one thing I always love to see, right? If they go on and fight other people on their division, and then they win those, and they still undefeated, and they eventually meet again. That's great, and that shows that they probably are the two top women at the flyweight division, right? But I guess we'll have to see what happens. Valentina, who knows how long she's going to be fighting for. She looks dominant. She looks like the old Valentina, but she's also getting up there in age. I think she's like 36 or something like that. So it's that's a question for sure of when she will retire. She's obviously more closer to 40 than to 30 now. So yeah, that's a question that we have to have, obviously. So yeah, shout out to Valentina. I feel bad for Alexa. I really, especially being the whole Mexican theme. I was really hoping for an Alexa Grasso win, even though my pick was for Valentina. So I don't, when I make picks, guys, and when I try to bet money on fights, I don't bet with a bias, which is what a lot of people do. You have to be able to separate. You don't have to bet as a fan, because technically speaking, I'm a little bit more of a fan of Alexa, but I just knew Valentina is super dominant. I knew that she could make the necessary adjustments, which she did. She pretty much did that. So shout out. So then we move on to the main event of the evening: Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. I always have issues saying his name, Dvalishvili. I think that's how you say it, Dvalishvili. Yes. Um, So yeah, we obviously had not a huge upset because Marav wasn't like this crazy underdog, but definitely I think a lot of people kind of rule him out. A lot of people always, it's easy to bet on a guy like O'Malley. Like back when Kamaru was dominating, back when Izzy was dominating, it was the obviously the very easy first option, right? Oh yeah, O'Malley by third round KO or something, especially because we're so used to seeing that, which is kind of what happening now with Alex Pereira, right? He just goes out there and gives us these amazing wins, one after the other, and they're memorable and they're huge moments, right? So now when he fights, a lot of people just expect that. So when something like this happens, Not unexpected, because definitely, I even said it myself in the last episode, Merab could totally get this dub, right? Um, and he kind of did exactly what I said he was going to do. But even though my bet was for Sean O'Malley, right? Um, but Merab, a lot of people will tell you different things that, oh, he figured out Sean O'Malley. He figured it out, and he knew exactly what to do. Listen, if you go back and watch all of Merab's fights, he did not change a goddamn thing. Okay, he fought exactly like Merab. He fought exactly like that against Henry Cejudo. That's the one that comes to my mind the most. But he definitely fought the perfect fight. But he just fought his own style. He had nothing flashy, nothing crazy, nothing different that we've never seen before. He had his style, and it worked perfectly against O'Malley. What really stood out to me the most was that Merab did an amazing job at making this a dirty boxing fight. He made it a dirty fight, right? He wasn't really, a lot of people that fight O'Malley, they stay at the range that O'Malley wants them to stay. And yeah, he moves a lot, right? So he's able to find that range sometimes a lot, no matter where you're at. But sometimes O'Malley is just fighting, you know, not moving targets. Sometimes O'Malley is fighting, for lack of a better word, cans that are just punching bags, right? Even though he's had some great, impressive wins, a lot of times he had the crazy, crazy advantage on striking. And Merab did the right thing by just making it dirty and not standing still, moving around, changing distances here and there. You could see at some point even Merab was completely out of distance, but he was still kind of jabbing, which I thought was a little weird. But I don't know. Maybe he did it to throw O'Malley off. You don't know. Maybe he threw his distance game out. I don't know. But regardless, he got the dub. Um, he was having really good success on landing on O'Malley on whenever there was at the beginning of a wrestling exchange and after a wrestling exchange. So if he shot for a takedown, he would crack O'Malley and then shoot, and let's say O'Malley got up, or let's say he stuffed the takedown. Merab would immediately counter and then land one or two cheeky, sneaky little little hits right there. But hey, they do work. And then yeah, the ability to take O'Malley down at will as well. It's what I kind of talked about in the last episode. I said, okay, if you do have some success on the feet, do not play O'Malley's game, because even though he might be getting lit up, he's still fucking dangerous. He's still a great counter striker and could fucking clip you with something. And for the whole round, for the fourth and fifth round, I was just saying, Merab, you have this. Just don't play his game. Do not engage that much with him, right? And you can see it in round five. O'Malley hurt him with the body kicks, with a couple body kicks back to back, and he was hurt. You could tell he was hurt. And I was just like, bro, do not play this game. Take him down right now. Take him down right the fuck now. And yeah, I was a little stressed out. But yeah, basically what I said is, listen, if you're having success on the ground, on the feet, go for the takedown. Go, 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 go. Even if he stuffs it, good. Try again in a couple, moments or whatever, right? And again, do not play O'Malley's game, because that's where he has the best. Obviously, at his distance that he likes, at his striking that he likes, that's where he shines the most. And if you want to go back and look at the rounds, I mean, I give Merab all four rounds, and then the last one I give to O'Malley just because of those kicks to the body that had success, right? But other than that, it was Merab all over, bro. It was Merab just fighting the perfect fight he had to fight in order to get past Sean O'Malley, who is no punk, because, the argument that I had for Sean O'Malley winning was, well, obviously phenomenal striking. Clearly he has the advantage there. But then, if he's able to stuff one or two takedowns, that will really give him the confidence to get going on the feet, right? And yeah, like I said, Merab just did the right thing and just didn't play O'Malley's game. And I will say, I don't want to take anything from Merab, okay? O'Malley doesn't really have any excuses. He didn't look flat. He didn't had an off night. He didn't really, we're not talking about that at all. Okay, I think he got beat fair and square, and it's almost it's terrible if you already start saying that. And I think even Dana White said, "Oh yeah, he looked stiff. He looked like, what we always say after a fight and somebody loses, right? When Izzy lost, we said the same thing. Oh, he didn't look like Izzy. He looked stiff. He looked like he didn't get going, right? I don't think that's the case with O'Malley. O'Malley did not look stiff. He looked very loose. Typical movement that he always kind of does. So that's not the case. That is not the case at all. Again, it was just a matter of fact that Merab was a moving target, and O'Malley just couldn't really land. He was looking a lot for the one punch KO, and that, as you know, doesn't always go your way, because if you don't land, you get tired from throwing power punches, and then you are just wasting opportunities where you could have landed a few different less threatening shots, but maybe you land a good combo, a little three piece, and that could go more than missing one punch. So he was winding a lot. He was looking for that one KO that never came. Um, and then another interesting thing that say whatever you want, but one interesting thing was that Tim Welsh, his coach at the beginning of the fight, was trying to do the same thing that he did against Aljo. And I don't know, part of me, which if you don't know, it's that he was yelling at Aljo, saying kind of like, "Come on, Aljo, you gotta go now, you gotta go." And the moment he said it, that's when Aljo kind of launched forward completely with his hands down, and that's when O'Malley cracked him in the fucking face, right? So he was trying to do the exact same thing with Merab, right? And luckily, Merab said something. Merab was talking to him at first, and then he got in trouble with Herb. I think it was Herb Dean, because he was like, "Hey, that's my job." Yeah, it was Herb Dean. "That's my job. Let me worry about that, right?" So then Herb Dean gave a warning officially to Tim Walsh for doing that, which is good. I mean, it's kind of scummy if you ask me. If you really, really are hoping to throw off Merab, and then hoping that distracts him and then O'Malley can get the KO, that's really, really scummy. And if you're relying on that, and if you're thinking you're gonna win fights like that, I don't know. That's really scummy to me. Whatever, right? Whatever you guys want to think about that. But I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was interesting. And then another funny thing that happened during the fight was that I think it was the end of the second or the third round. Merab was on top of O'Malley, and then he kissed him on the shoulder. And for whatever reason, that's when Herb Dean told him, "Hey, don't do that." But then for whatever reason, Merab got up and started walking away, even though the round wasn't over. So O'Malley was like, "Oh, really? Oh, fuck!" And then got up immediately and cracked him. I think he landed one of them. Well, he didn't really land clean, but he tried. Um, so yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then I'll move on here in a sec, but another interesting thing was that Herb Dean, even Joe Rogan pointed it out, Herb Dean was telling them, "Come on, you gotta work. You gotta work." Even though the stuff was happening. He said it a few times. He said it once on the ground when Merab, one of the times that he was on top, I think it was round 4, Merab was on top, and he was, he wasn't doing a whole lot, but he was landing a lot of these knees that you saw when he had O'Malley on the side, and he was landing those knees to the thighs, which they might hurt a lot. They don't really seem like they hurt a lot, but they probably do. And some of those were also to the body. Some of those landed to the rib cage and stuff like that. But he was kind of doing that and trying to kind of get position. Herb Dean was like, "Come on, bro, you gotta go, you gotta go." Which, if you don't know, if he keeps doing that, it means that he most likely will separate them and stand them up, right? But then, weirdly enough, he did that again on the 5th round while they were on the feet. Yes, while they were striking. They were just kind of, Merab was, he at this point he kind of knew he had the dub, so he was just kind of going around. And again, Herb Dean was saying, "Come on, you gotta go, you gotta go." What, brother? What? If O'Malley is chasing Merab, and it's the 5th round, and Merab it's winning 4 rounds. He's up 4 rounds, and there's like, well, I think there was like a minute left, and he's trying to just coast. You cannot be like, "Come on, bro, you gotta go, you gotta go." You can't do that. You absolutely cannot do that. I don't know why he did it. Joe Rogan pointed it out, and I just thought it was so weird. And it almost makes you, I don't know, I'm not trying to get conspiratorial. If you don't know, every time I get conspiratorial, I put on my shades, right? If we're going to talk about a conspiracy, the shades come on. What if? What if the fight was rigged? UFC and Dana White really wanted O'Malley to win. So they were hoping that by Herb Dean saying, come on, you gotta work, you gotta work, you gotta work. They were hoping that Merab would wanna, throw a wind to the caution a little bit. I don't know why I'm speaking like that. They were hoping that Merab would throw wind to the caution a little bit and hopefully get knocked out. I don't know. I don't think that's the case. I'm reading too much into it, and normally things like that in the UFC don't happen. If they do happen, we'll never know. So why even entertain it? But I just thought it was odd. It was super odd, but nevertheless, the round was over slightly after that, and Merab was the winner. So, yeah, man, we have a new champion in the bantamweight division. So shout out to Merab. He got past a really, really, really tough test in O'Malley. Obviously, we know how dangerous he is. So, shout out. And yeah, another thing I talked about was that O'Malley probably will not get an immediate rematch, and I think that is the case. I don't really hear nobody bring it up. Sorry, Joe Rogan didn't ask that in the post-fight interview, and I also watched the uh, press conference, and I don't think nobody mentioned about that either. So you can bet that probably won't happen, at least not right away. The name that did come up was Umar Nurmagomedov. So I think that will be, that makes sense to be the next fight for the title, Umar versus Merab. Even though, and Merab caught a little shit for this, but even though when Umar's name came up, he was at the Sphere, by the way. His name came up, and he hesitated. He was like, "Oh, I don't know, guys. We'll see, right?" And a lot of people say like, "Oh, again, people love to be casuals, bro." Listen, there's no more way to say it. People love to be casuals. People immediately go to saying, "Oh, he's dodging Umar. He's dodging Umar." Bro, he just defeated 4 champs back to back to back, motherfucker. He's not dodging Umar. What's happening is that more people should take a book, should take a page from this book. He's saying, "Hey, bro, I just became champion." Right? It's kind of like what Dana White does. Like, I don't make fights the day of the fight that he just ended. I'm not gonna make a fight right now, and he's trying to do the same thing. And I think it's smart. I think it's smart. I think as a champion, you really have to, you have such a small window of opportunity to be a dominant champion, and not a lot of people get to be dominant champions. A lot of people get the belt, defend it once or twice, and then they're out, right? I think it really, for lack of a better word, it's milk that fucking title, milk that shit, right? Go home now, take a few weeks off, vacation, enjoy the win, enjoy the interviews, the media, and renegotiate a contract maybe with the UFC, and then talk about a fight, right? But yeah, tend to be quick with that, like, oh yeah, give me Umar right now, right? Before you know it, we have Umar versus Merab in 2 months or 3 months, and if he loses, which I'm not saying he is, but if he does lose, now he was only champion for just a short window, right? So it's kind of like, okay, I made it here. I made it to the top where I want to be. It's not the same game plan anymore. You go from being the hunter to now being the hunted. So now you got to kind of change your game plan slightly. And I think you got to be a little bit more calculated with your fights, with when you fight. I think that's the biggest thing, right? It's when you're fighting is probably the most important one. Not really who, because I don't think there's a way he dodges Umar. I think Umar is the next one for sure. But he does have a bit more leverage on saying when, right? Kind of like what happened with Aljo, and he might be doing this because he took a page. He saw what happened to Aljo. Aljo, well, for what it looked like on our end, most likely got pressured to take the O'Malley fight, even though he was slightly injured and he had just got off a fight as well. He got kind of pressured, and he took the fight and he lost. And now we know that he wasn't injured during the fight, but he had, for what he said it on his words, injuries that he was still nursing, right? There. So Merab saw that, and then he said, "All right, well, let me kind of do the opposite, right? Let me be champ for a little bit. Let me go enjoy a little bit of this shit, and then in a few weeks come back at me, and then we'll see when we fight, right?" But again, the biggest thing is when. You have to make sure you're trained properly, you're not injured. I think smartly, just take 3 months of not fighting right now. Not Don't go off the rails. Obviously, still train and stuff like that, but just go 3 months being the champ without an opponent, without a date. Just focus on training or improving your cardio, getting better, and then take a fight once you feel good and once you feel ready, right? Obviously, he didn't take a whole lot of damage from O'Malley, but he got in a fight with O'Malley and he got cracked a few times. He got hit to the body a lot, so I think it's smart that he's not rushing in right away. I would have liked to see a face-off in the octagon between him and Umar, and I think Umar was there and the opportunity was there, but it just didn't happen. So a little bit unfortunate when you put it from that, but yeah, I think it's smart, and I think we that's the fight we obviously get next. It's just a matter of when. Now for Sean O'Malley, I'll move out of this topic, I swear. But for Sean O'Malley, I do think that for him we have a potential number one contender fight in the future. And now looking at the list here, I do like a name of a Corey Sanhagen, right, for a number one contender fight, or a Davison Figueiredo. I think either of those two, 100%, probably more Davison, especially Corey coming out of a loss. But I think either of those fights are very, very entertaining fights. And I think that's just O'Malley no matter where he's at. No matter if he's a champ or not. Even before he was champ, he was always delivering entertaining fights, no matter who he fights, and it's his fight style. And it's also a big event, so you can guarantee that his next fight will probably be at a big pay-per-view, probably headlining or maybe the co-main. So yeah, it's just what we get with O'Malley. And yeah, shout out to both of those guys for giving us a decent fight, but overall the entire card was the dog. No, I'm just kidding. Not dog. Not It wasn't dog shit. It wasn't dog shit. But bro, when you have all the fights in the main card being decisions, it's just so tough. It's so tough to watch. But hey, the rest of the event, the production was the best I've ever seen. So shout out to Dana and shout out to the UFC and the Sphere for putting it all together and for giving us an amazing viewing experience at home. So hey, and if you were there, fuck, amazing. You rich asshole. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, moving on to the next topic, guys. I do want to talk about the announcement that the UFC made for UFC 309. It's official. We now have a date and a place for John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. So it will be at UFC 309. It will be in New York in Madison Square Garden, November 16th. Very, very glad that this fight has finally happened, even though I've said it before, this is not the fight I want to see anymore. I think I think this fight kind of burned out for a lot of people. I know it did for me, right? When you expect that fight so much like that, it's what happens. And I've talked about this before about how this is a fight that John Jones wants, obviously for the money, and obviously because it's the easier fight for the bigger paycheck. So why the fuck not? And it would really solidify him because on paper, Stipe Miocic is the best heavyweight ever, right? On paper. But that's what he wants it for, to on paper be, double champ. He's already double champ, but he wants to say, hey, I was super dominant at light heavyweight, and now I defeated the best heavyweight ever. So I'm solidified as the GOAT, as the absolute GOAT, which is smart from his part. It's smart. Stipe is a fucking legend, and I think it's also kind of unfair again that a lot of people are ruling Stipe out. But how can you not do it when he hasn't fought in so long? He's clearly older. His last fight he got brutally KO'd. I'm not saying he can win, but I'm just saying it's gonna be tough. Okay, you've been out of the game for such a long time. Stipe hasn't fought in such a long time that looking at the website right now, his picture still has the Reebok shorts. Okay, that's when the last time Stipe fought, he still had the Reebok shorts. So he hasn't even taken a picture in the UFC headquarters in such a long time. It was obviously the Ngannou fight, and it was back in 2021. So, yep. So 4 years out of the octagon, probably not training as much 24/7. I would imagine as an active fighter, probably training, but just staying in shape, just doing the bare minimum. I don't know. I could be wrong. He could be fucking in the gym 2 times a day, 7 days a week. You don't know that, but I doubt it. Especially without going so many years without a date, without an opponent. Probably already considered retired. So yeah, that even though it's an interesting fight and it's not the fight I want to see, I'm glad it's happening because I just want to get some answers. I just want to get some answers on if John Jones will really retire after, or we are going to get probably the fight that we have all been asking for, which are two fights that we've all been asking for. Obviously, John Jones versus Tom Aspinall will be the main one and the biggest one. And then the other one, which I don't think would happen, is against Alex Pereira, right? That's also out there floating. But yeah, that every time seems more far and far away, and that we are never gonna get it. So I'm excited for the fight, but it's not what I wanted. I am excited, however, about the co-main of the night, which is Charles do Bronx Oliveira. If you don't know, probably my favorite fighter, versus Michael Chandler. So that two things. This is the second time they fought. So the first time was for the title, and Charles won, and that's when he became champ. And then thing number two is that with this fight announced, it kind of leaves McGregor out of the picture, right? Because for the longest, similar situation to the John Jones and Stipe, for the longest, this is the fight that the UFC has been trying to put on for damn near 2 years now, probably more than 2 years. But it just kept falling off. It kept getting rescheduled. It kept getting pushed. McGregor gets injured, blah, blah, blah. And then, obviously, now we're here. Now we're here. So I'm excited that Michael finally got a fight. I'm excited that he kind of realized, hey, man, I can't be seen as this guy that's going to just sit around and wait, right? I have to show the people that I'm still a fighter. In hindsight, I think he made the wrong move. I think he made the wrong move. Not now though. I think he made the wrong move 6 months ago, right? Because he knew this could have been the outcome. Because fighting Charles in a co-main event, it's probably a lot less profitable than fighting McGregor, right? So obviously we all know the only reason why you're fighting McGregor is for the money. He's not even a contender. He hasn't fought in a long time. He's not even in the top of the division conversation, right? So the fact that he was waiting for him for such a long time obviously tells you that he wanted the payday, which is great, which is smart. Get your bag, bro. Get your motherfucking bag. But at the same time, you got to ask yourself, was it worth it, right? And in my opinion, listen, if he would have fought McGregor this year, let's say December, yes, that's fucking worth it. Yes, it's worth it. You go 2 years without taking any damage, just working on your game, just training, just make sure you're getting better, not taking any damage fighting, and then you fight and you get paid the best paycheck you've ever had and probably more than a few of your last couple fights combined. Well, I don't know about that because the Gage fight was definitely well paying. The Poirier fight was definitely well paying. I don't know if it's more than his previous fights combined, but it's definitely a big amount. I mean, you're talking a couple mil in the bank, right? So you go from basically just not taking any damage for 2 years and then making a fuck ton of money, which is good. It doesn't help your conversation for the belt, but it does help your bank account. So, yeah, right. If you're, and then again, a lot of people have that different ways of like, Am I fighting for the money? Am I fighting for a legacy? Am I fighting for, what am I fighting for, right? And a lot of people do it for money, and people admit it, and it's not a bad thing to say. It's not like, oh, I just like, bro, that's their job, and they're trying to get rich at it, right? So, in hindsight, he did the smart thing by waiting, but it's a decision that he had to make probably about, what are we, in September? He had to make that decision 9 months ago, right? 8 months ago, he had to say, well, am I waiting for McGregor this year, or do I go ahead and fight somebody? So again, in hindsight, he made the right decision, but the timing was just off, right? And then again, it just fell apart. And he was just what, 14 days or 10 days from the fight, from fighting McGregor. So at one point, he was, hey man, I'm good. I made it. I'm gonna get paid. I'm gonna, it was worth the wait, and I'm here. And then obviously McGregor gets injured, right? So again, he was winning, and then he made the wrong decision. So yeah, just to kind of go off that rant, I'm so sorry, but yeah, I do like the Charles fight. I think it makes sense, especially if he wants to get back in the belt conversation. I think getting past Charles is definitely a good way of doing that, and it kind of makes you wonder because the first fight, uh, Michael had Charles injured really bad in the first round, and then Charles came back and won the fight in the second round. So makes you wonder if maybe Michael had a few more things for us, a few more things to show us in that fight. So I guess we'll have to see and find out. And yeah, overall, I think it's a good time that this whole time he's been training because he's had fight camps. He had 2 fight camps, I think. He's been training, he's been getting better, and he hasn't been taking any damage, right? But now he didn't get paid. So, yep, it sucks. Hopefully, the UFC, though, takes care of him. Hopefully. I think they will. I think Dana White realizes that, hey, he waited a lot. It didn't happen. So let's just take care of him, throw him a little bonus, and, let's see what happens. So, but that leaves McGregor out of the picture. And yeah, I mean, we only have one more pay per view available for the rest of the year. The only one is December, right? We already have a headline for October. We already have a headline for November. So what's gonna happen? I think on December, I don't know. I don't want to say that we might get a McGregor fight on December because it's just, with how inconsistent he's been and with how, you know, I don't know, it's so weird because in my mind, he's so rich, right? So in my mind, I'm like, he doesn't need to fight anymore. He really doesn't need to fight at all. And for example, when he got injured with the whole pinky toe thing, right? You get injured. How long does it take to recover from a pinky toe injury? So my whole point that I'm going with this is, let's say you do 5 weeks of a fight camp, right? And then you get injured with your toe, right? And you take, let's say, a couple weeks off. Do you go back to training? And it doesn't seem like he did that. It seems like those 4 weeks of camp, boom, wasted, and he doesn't go into camp right away. It seems that then he then continues on with some of his lifestyle. He's a movie star now. He owns a bar. He has a fuck ton of money. He's always in yachts. He's at Monaco. So he goes out to that lifestyle and just doesn't train because I think any other fighter has a training camp, gets injured from your pinky toe, you heal it in a matter of probably weeks. You're right back in fight camp, right? I mean, that seems the logistical thing to do. But not McGregor. He, for some reason, that completely throws him off. And now we probably will not see him fight this year, if I have to admit. I think that December fight, I don't know who might headline that card. I might have a few ideas that I'm trying to maybe put together. Maybe we'll see some middleweight action or some welterweight action. Who knows? Who knows? But I do think that I can probably make the prediction right now that probably McGregor will not fight in 2024. Now, saying that, Dana White also said that he has something quite special planned for us for the December fight. for the December card. So who knows? It could be McGregor, but against who? I mean, no one really ran out off the top of my mind makes sense. Maybe someone like a Justin Gagey, someone like a Dustin Poirier, Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, somewhere in the lightweight division. And then obviously somewhere in the welterweight division, right? But not for the belt. I don't think he's gonna fight for the belt. If he does, that'll be fucking crazy. Um, Maybe a potential Nate Diaz comeback. That will be fucking lit. And for some reason, Chandler still seems to think that he's gonna fight McGregor at some point. I doubt it. I strongly doubt it. And I'm sorry to break it to you, buddy, but I do not think you're gonna fight McGregor ever now. I think McGregor has one more fight in him, right? If he even fights, he has one more, and he's gonna be looking, I think, for especially if you lose against Oliveira. If you lose against Oliveira, you can kiss that McGregor fight bye bye. But I do think that McGregor has one more fight in him, and he's wanting it to be a bigger name. It sounds messed up because Chandler is a pretty big name, but just somebody more probably coming off of a win with a slightly bigger name than Chandler. So that's what I'm saying. Someone like, or not bigger than Chandler, but kind of around the same realm. So that's what I said. Someone like a Gagey, Kamaru, you know, I don't know. I think Colby, even the Poirier, maybe some of those. But yeah, who knows? I don't think he's gonna fight Chandler anymore. But when that does happen, if it ever happens, I will be here to break it down. So once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. That will be all for today, and I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. And yeah, as always, don't forget, hit the like, hit the subscribe, leave me a comment, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.